Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, lovelies, and welcome to Her Life Unscripted, episode 27. I am really excited to be here with you today, and I am also grateful that the gentlemen that were literally cutting down multiple trees with chainsaws behind my office are gone, so that I'm able to dive into this episode and actually edit it so that you guys will be able to hear it. Today is an interview episode with the amazing Nicole Bonsol. Nikki is somebody that I've known for the past couple of years. She has really helped out with me finding my creative voice and has been a huge facilitator in both of my websites for my private practice, My Happy Couple, and also with obviously the podcast, Her Life Unscripted. So those websites are both collaborations with the wonderful Nicole Bonsol. She has just been instrumental in really creating my vision to come to life. So I'm so excited to be talking with her today about our voices and how we have so much wisdom in them. Nicole she's constantly working on being brave and staying true to herself. She's going to share a little bit about her story today. Professionally, she's both a songwriter and a singer, and also a writer and designer who really makes beautiful and soulful websites for women-owned small businesses. And I'm just so excited for you guys to get a chance to meet her, really hear her story, and connect so much with what she talks about in terms of being able to really discover our voices and the power and wisdom behind being true to them. So without further ado, the lovely Nicole Bonsol. Enjoy. Well, I am super excited to have Nicole Bonsol on the podcast today. We have had the pleasure of working together. For those of you that have been on my website, herlifeunscripted.com, that is a creation from the lovely Nicole, and she has just been amazing to work with. And I really wanted her to come on the show because she just has been so instrumental in helping me create my vision into a reality. And she just has this gift for helping people be able to find their voices. And I just feel like it fits so much with her life unscripted journey. And so I'm just excited to have Nicole on the show today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Of course. I'm really excited too.
It's going to be lots of fun just to be able to have this time to chat. And we've worked together on a couple projects. And every time I'm like, I just need to get a new project going so I can connect with Nicole. We can work together again. But I don't know what that would be. But that's always in the back of my mind of how we can collaborate. So it's going to be fun to talk today.
Thanks.
So I gave kind of your, more formal introduction before we started recording. So the guests kind of have a little bit of or the audience kind of knows a little bit about you. But I want to dive in and have you share a little bit about just the work that you do so folks can kind of get a little bit familiar and then kind of dive into this whole voice finding, seeking thing that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So I kind of do a bunch of different things. And I think that relates to the whole unscriptedness vibe of your podcast. I worked in mental health for a really long time as a case manager and as in administration. And I left to pursue something more creative. I originally left to be a singer-songwriter. But once I left my job, I realized that the reason I wasn't making music wasn't because I was busy. It was because I was afraid. So even though I left all of the other supposed barriers behind, I wasn't making music. And in that period of trying to make music, having my savings run out and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I caught this entrepreneurial bug. I realized that there was a way that I could meld the writing part of my passion and the therapy, healing, health part of my interests and passions into a business. And so I started out writing websites, writing content for therapists in private practice who needed their websites to sound like them and who didn't want to seem stodgy or what's the word, or like salesy, manipulative or fake online, and really wanted to connect with people. So that's sort of the nutshell of how I ended up there. And so the work today I do is around writing, around finding your voice in this nebulous online space where everyone seems to have this perfectly curated online presence. That can be really intimidating when you're just starting out and you're like, I don't know who I am or what I'm supposed to say. And also doing the visual sides of that too. So the design and branding portions.
It's so funny because I was talking with a friend the other day and we were talking about Facebook, and I said, I don't need to be sold another coaching program or another entrepreneur make your first million in a week program. Like my feed is just so heavy with this like selling. And I have no idea how to get those off my feed because it's just it's all ads and sponsored stuff that based on what I like and follow, it's now Big Brother now knows what to, send me. But you can almost feel inundated with, whether it's the virtual world or the real world of just feeling like there's these messages coming to you around people trying to sell something. And then also how much does that reflect who they are? And so being able, I think there's this gift that you have of not only you discovering your own voice, but helping other people discover theirs. And that's just such a unique gift of being able to work both of those lines. And so talking about you finding your own voice, what was that journey like of kind of, like you said, letting go of the full-time job and going, wow, there's still fear that's blocking me from sharing me.
And
what was that like?
With music, it's still like that every day, and it's getting a little bit less as I get older and I give less F's about things.
Yes.
But also I had this experience. I went to a conference earlier this year for music, and I'd sort of put music aside for a while, for like about a year, just to focus on growing my design and writing side of my work, so that would get stable. So I went to this conference and I was at this singer-songwriter. It was like a mini show, and like people like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 was there just singing acoustic, Ryan McKnight, people that I really, when I was younger, just really fanned out about. And they were talking about how much they loved the craft and their work and all the nerdy little details of it. And my heart broke because I wasn't pursuing that. And it was so painful. I don't know if you've ever heard that story. I think it was in a movie or something. Like there was a dog sitting on the porch and it was sitting on this nail and it wouldn't move. And your grandpa's sitting there and you're like, Grandpa, why is that dog sitting on the nail? Like, that's really weird. And Grandpa says, oh, it doesn't hurt enough yet for it to move. I had that experience in that nightclub at that conference. It was just like, ow, it hurts to not be doing the thing I love. And as much as I try not to be motivated by pain, sometimes that's what happens. And that's how I tried to be on my path and I got afraid. And so I went off onto a sort of a parallel path that wasn't as scary. But eventually there's these little like they're like nuggets of longing and yearning to go back there that are drawing me back.
Wow. Yeah. Just feeling like there's a part of you that's missing by not pursuing it. It's so visceral when you describe it like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I think a lot of the time I keep myself busy, and I know a lot of us do. I'm not a mom, and I can't imagine how much more tasks and energy and emotion that adds to one's life. So sometimes I keep myself so busy that I'm not, like, it's easy to ignore that other part. I'm doing okay. But once in a while, if I allow myself the space, or I just happen to be in a space where that true love for something can bubble up, then I really feel it. I'd love to be in that space a little more aware, a little more mindful.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point of that. It is that space where we slow down enough to feel what's calling us, right? But that's also, it can be it can be very terrifying, but it also can be foreign of like, what is going on right now? I don't feel right, or something's going on, and not knowing that that's actually a calling.
Yeah.
Like we mislabel it, right? We mislabel it as, oh, I must be needing to do X, Y, and Z, because we don't realize that that's actually like our passion calling to us.
And then we try to like treat it with something else because we're not sure what it is, or distract ourselves from it.
Yeah, distract ourselves from it, because then when we're seen in living our passion, it's like, okay, well, what's it going to be like for everybody else, right? Like what's their response going to be? We start putting, energy into wondering what it's going to be like for everybody else, rather than really trusting that it's right for us.
Yeah, that's so true. I get worried about, what are other people going to think of me, or if other people don't have the privilege or the space or the time to follow their calling. Does me standing up and, trying to do the dream thing, does that pisses some people off? Sorry, pees some people off.
It's all right. You can say pisses off. I'll allow it. No, but that's so true, because it is a privilege to be able to follow our dream, right? To be able to follow our calling. It's an absolute privilege. And it's one that I'm so, especially kind of creating and launching this podcast, so acutely aware of being able to do this, and so grateful for, my other business, my therapy business, that is allowing me to have the funds to be able to do this, because it's money coming from somewhere to be able to pay for the subscription here and the hosting there and all that stuff, but realizing that it's a privilege that my other business is allowing me to do something this. And then, like you said, it can really upset people. It can really piss people off, thinking, who are you to follow your dream?
Isn't that nice for you? While the rest of us are slogging down here. Like I have those feelings sometimes too. And for me, it comes from, a little self like flogging that I didn't follow the passion earlier, that I'm not young enough anymore, but yeah, when other people, I get afraid of other people respond. And not that really anyone has responded that way to my face. I don't know why I think that people will just like shun me at parties if I tell them what I do.
Right.
But I'm afraid of it sometimes.
It is very true. It is very true. And thinking though, that realization that when somebody has negative criticism around it, that it really is more their own stuff, more their own shame or their disappointment that they haven't followed their passion, versus it really being about us. But it's so hard to separate it when we hear those words. So and I think you talk about passion and dreams and things like that, such a kind of a subjective word in terms of how, very nebulous in terms of how we define it. But I think that, thinking about kind of the day to day is being able to find things that we're following no matter when, like no matter what we're doing, even if we are slogging through, that we're still finding ways to create passion and follow our dreams in amongst it. Like have it be something that's a daily ritual rather than one day I'll be able to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, that's another shift that's happened for me over the years.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, I think it came with the realization that leaving my job and like doing the thing full time didn't feel like I would dreamt it to be, and it didn't unfold in the way that I had dreamt it would unfold. It was kind of a shock. And so I kind of reacted to that shock by building a whole nother business. But in the years since I've started that other business and tried to bring music back into my life, it's been a daily, like writing a little bit every day, taking another baby step to go to an open mic or share a song with someone or ask someone to co-write together, taking tiny little steps rather than just focusing on that big dream goal or I don't even know if it's a goal anymore, but that big, beautiful dream of, every second I'm creating and it feels good. And
Well, yeah, and I think we can apply that to every aspect of our life. It's like, well, once I have the perfect relationship, or once I'm the perfect weight, or once, I have this great car or this great job, then I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And we can limit ourselves to enjoying what's right in front of us because it has to be the big goal that we accomplish in order to get happiness, versus recognizing, like you said, those little baby steps of reaching out with somebody to collaborate or signing up for an open mic. Like those are really baby steps towards an amazing goal, but they're also huge steps too, because they're allowing yourself to be seen when you're not at your best, right? Because you haven't reached the goal. You're not perfect yet.
Exactly.
Right? Air quotes.
Air quotes.
But you're still showing up and doing these big things despite not being ready yet or complete enough.
And I think that's what earlier you were saying, that you're getting things in your feed that are all about overnight success and this huge thing in 30 days or a week or whatever. And I think that's, if those are showing up, if you're listening and those sorts of things are showing up in your media too, those are things that are pulling us to think that we need to do that big thing right away, and then we'll be happy. But really, and I think this is something that you write and talk about a lot too, like happiness is a choice, is a path, is in the day-to-day, just being happy with the growth and the journey.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I have a gal that I work out with who's she's an amazing inspiration, and she's just taking care of herself and just reshaped her body. And she's kind of like, I think it's right around the first of the year that People always does the, top 10 people that have lost weight, and this is how they did it. And they show the before and after pictures and what they did each day in order to do it. And you see those pictures and you think, like, really? Like, this is what they did? They ate this and went to the gym? Like, no, they look like different people. And so we kind of separate ourselves from this because we can't see it incrementally. We just see the before and after picture. Well, I've had the pleasure of exercising next to this woman for the past couple of years and seeing her literally transform herself through hard work and taking care of herself. And so she is the person on that People magazine. But it's amazing to me to have the privilege of seeing her throughout the process and, her being so open about the ups and downs, and that it is a journey. And you see it like that and you believe it because you're seeing it, versus being sold these stories, or like you said, on the news feed or the media feed of overnight successes, or sold something that isn't legitimate, but actually being able to walk next to somebody and see her doing it every day. It's such a different level of inspiration. It's one that, like, it gives me goosebumps. It just moves me to want to know her more because I get to see it each day and the work that's actually going into it.
Well, and the folks that are on the folks that we're talking about that are on the internet just advertising these seemingly not legitimate things, I feel like a lot of them, like, I think some of them might not be legit, but some of them were your friend that they worked 4 years, like who knows how many years, doing a little bit every day, failing spectacularly, succeeding sometimes. And eventually they got to this place where now they know, looking back on all the years, that they have the exact steps that you can take going forward. And in a perfect vacuum, maybe you could do it in 30 days. But I think almost everyone, it's about the journey, because we're human and we're going to face blocks that are either imposed on us or we're imposing on ourselves, and it's going to take a lot longer. And the fact that we don't live up to the overnight success hype it's just hype, or it's a story that we can use to keep ourselves from continuing to do the work, I think, too.
I think that's powerful, right? The story that we tell ourselves that we don't need to, that we can't do the work, or we're not capable of doing the work. Like, it allows us to pull away from our purpose, versus like kind of what you were saying earlier about stumbling towards it. Like, because it is a stumble. It is not a straight shot.
It's not.
And we can definitely tell ourselves those things that cause us to step back and move away from what we really feel is our calling. So thinking about that, in terms of finding your own voice, and I think that, I love music and I love the story that music tells. And one of the things that I love about it is not only does it take you to a place in time that so connects with that experience when you first heard the song or whatever it was, but also that it's words that somebody else wrote that are so your words.
Yes.
Like that's how I experience music. Like somebody else wrote this, but these are my words.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about writing like people's website copy and songwriting at the same time, because it both, especially as I work mostly with healers, so especially for people in the healing fields, it needs to connect in that emotional way, in that real way with folks that songs often do. And there's this balance between us as creative people and us as like, people who want to stand out, balance between wanting to say something completely original, but at the same time say something completely non-original, like get in somebody's head. So it's in a way it's cliche, because but cliches are cliches because they ring true for so many people, right?
Right, absolutely.
So you're stuck in this like going back and forth. How do I say this in a way that is a little bit different, but still resonates because it's so simple and so true. Yeah, I've discovered that recently, that songwriting and copywriting are similar in that way.
Oh, absolutely. It hit me as we started talking, thinking like that's why you have such a gift with songwriting, because you have such a gift with copy, or vice versa, right? One, they're complementary to each other, because even, I think, I'm trying to think, I know you did at least copy on one page on each of my sites. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting going back to look at them. I can't remember the ones that you did versus the ones that I did, because your ability to find my voice was so well done. It was so blended with my voice that I'm thinking, I know she did copy for one of these pages. Which one?
Yay!
You know what I mean? And that's a gift, right? And so I guess my question to you is, how do you find your own voice in amongst it when it needs to be your voice, especially when you have found such a amazing way to help other people find their voice? Like, how do you find yours when it's supposed to be yours? Or have you discovered that yet?
I think so. I write blogs and newsletters for my business, and I think that's what you're asking about, like how to find my voice in those when I'm not writing for other people. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I just don't want to write anything because I'm looking outside and seeing, oh, that person already said that thing. What's the point? Or that person said that in such a good way, it's better than mine. What's the point of writing? And I think a lot of people have those same scripts that are running through their head when it comes to putting themselves out there. So when I get stuck, I try to focus on one real problem, one real question, one real something, that somebody on my mailing list or one of my clients has expressed. And I continue to I write little Post-it notes, and they're everywhere about people's questions and needs and stuff. And I try to focus on that one person, to put myself in their shoes and write to them as if I were writing them an email. And literally sometimes I'll open up an email, like a compose email window in my browser, and just be like, "Dear Anna," blah, 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 blah. And just try to get the thought out completely without editing it first. And that can be hard sometimes too, because I'll want to fix all the weird sentences and stuff.
The red squiggly lines or the green squiggly lines.
Wait, what are the green ones?
The green is grammar.
Like
if it's grammatically incorrect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and just get it out. And for the clients that I work with, I can speak to my experience of working with you specifically. I think the reason it sounds so much like you is because the way that I write for folks is I interview people about what they want to say, and a lot of the time they will say that original nugget that's in their own special voice, speaking to their very specific people, that'll just come out of their mouth. Like a lot of the copy on your site, on the page that we did, was just straight out of your mouth. I recorded all of it. I took notes, and then I just moved it around until it flowed in a in a cohesive piece of writing. Yeah, people have it. Everyone has it inside themselves. But something about writing, putting it down on paper, blocks a lot of folks somehow.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think about, especially, working with folks and talking about journaling, like there's this natural like pull away and like gag reflex of like, oh, journaling.
Oh, wow. Really? Even journaling?
Oh, yes, journaling. It's so interesting talking with folks about the power of journaling. And they're like, what am I supposed to do with it? What am I supposed to say? And just, and feeling such a block to it. And I think that, it's so funny. I have a good friend who's a PE teacher, and one of his pet peeves is when exercise is used as punishment. You know what I mean? Like the coach is like, you showed up late for practice, you owe me 20 line drills, and so it makes his job harder because as a PE teacher, he's talking about health and body awareness and fitness, and everybody's had it as a punishment. And I think that, thinking about school is sometimes writing is this punishment. Okay, well, you've screwed this up, so now you need to go write
a paper about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or Bart Simpson on the
over and over on the board, and so, yeah, I wonder if there is this place too of in the past using it as a punishment in kind of our academic days, but also of what's so important about my voice. And I think that's the piece that comes up often with talking with folks is what is so important about my voice that it's going to be any different than what everybody else has said, even if it's our own private thoughts, is we just start bashing them, thinking that there is, the uniqueness to it is not significant, and not even seeing it as uniqueness. And that part I feel is just, I couldn't be more wrong that no matter how we say it, it's us, even if it's been said 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think letting go of that desire to be completely original can help too, because there are literally 7 billion people on Earth, and there's very few original things. And if you let go of wanting to be like completely 100% perfect and original and just be yourself, I mean, you are an original. You are a million different cells and thoughts and experiences and hopes and dreams that's different from everyone else. And even if you're saying literally the same words or the same message as another person, you're reaching different people at a special time. Even if you just help one, even if one person is reading your blog, doesn't that mean something?
Yeah, you've created an experience for them or a connection through them just through that one. That one sentence or that one word. Yeah. So why, and this is going to be a crazy question. You're going to glare at me through the computer screen, but why is it so important for people to find their voices? And I just want your opinion on it. Why do you feel it's so important for somebody to find their voice and own their voice?
For me, I come from a place as speaking as a woman, speaking as a woman of color, women, at least in the United States. I can't speak to other countries. We have a lot of equality, but there's also a lot of inequality and subtle jabs and stories and stuff that keep a lot of women from speaking their minds or taking care of themselves or loving yourself. And I feel like for me, where my passion and purpose lie is in the voice. And I think that listening to your voice, knowing what your voice is, and when I say voice, not literally me talking on the sound of my voice, but the stories that are inside you to share, or the wisdom, the messages that you have to pass down to your children, or your nieces and nephews if you don't have children, or even your friends. That's important, and I think it's a form of self-love to be able to know what your voice is, spend time with it, and not have to judge it and compare it to anyone else's as better or worse or
that is such a great way of saying it, right? It's so important for us to be able to find our voice and own our voice, because that is a form of self-love.
Mhm.
That is us honoring our journey, our experiences, our story,
Mhm.
and knowing that sharing that is a way of not only connection with others, but also honoring what we've gone through.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think also that being able to be compassionate about your own story and your own message and non-judgmental about it in my ideal world helps human beings be more compassionate with others. Like once we love ourselves and can like see the hurts and stuff, that we can be more patient and loving with others. You know, that's my hope for world peace. The people owning their stories.
I like that for world peace. That's a good one, because it's like this slippery slope, I think, especially when we're sharing our stories or sharing our voice of, I call hindsight a curse, right?
Mm-hmm. The curse
like
of hindsight.
It is the curse of hindsight, right? Because you're judging, yesterday's decisions with today's information. And so it is such a curse, because when we are telling our story, there are ways that we can hear, because we've now verbalized it, of, ooh, that didn't go as planned, or I didn't show up the way I wanted to, or I could have navigated this differently. And so when we own our story, it's about owning the imperfections of it too. Yeah. And thinking about, especially, my audience and unscripted living, I think that and actually there's a podcast I recorded a couple weeks ago about storytelling, and just the power of being able to share it as a way to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something too, is recognizing that there's so much healing that happens when we find our own voice and honor it, rather than needing it to look different or be different than exactly what it is.
Yeah. And sharing it in a place where other people can respond to it, whether it's online or just in your own community is super healing too. As much as we want to be independent people and be our own whatever. What's the thing I'm trying to say? As much as we need to take care of ourselves, it is really important to belong and to have other people validate us and take care of us, and bravely sharing your story somewhere with other people is a really scary but potentially cool way to do that.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. As you said about like the power of sharing with other people, I felt this like wave go through of like the fear factor just got upped. It was funny. I was telling Nicole before we started recording that, so this is obviously going to air a couple months later, but I'm only in I'm week 2 of launching the podcast. And I had a dream last night of showing up to a final, of not having been at the class for the entire year. We all know that dream. And I was also naked. So it was like, it was so extreme. I woke up this morning, I was like, whew, Anna, you have like a vulnerability hangover right now. You know what I mean? Like, of being so
exposed
out there and totally, right? Like, talk about it. Here is like literally physically exposed in my dream, and then showing up for an evaluation, right? This exam that I've not prepped for. Like the metaphors in it are just mind blowing. But it has also been very healing to be able to share and discover this voice, because I've been in my therapist voice for so long. And I think one of the things that's hard as a therapist for me is, there's the line, there's me as therapist, right?
Yeah.
And how do I integrate Anna as person?
Yeah.
And I would say for the majority of people that know me, that I'm pretty much the same inside or outside the room, but being able to really step into this other voice has been something that's been very terrifying, but also healing, of honoring that what I have to say has value, even if other people don't see it, I'm finding it. And that part is been a healing process. So I do agree that it is so powerful when we're able to share our voice with others, but man, is it terrifying. I mean, I literally felt my stomach drop when you shared about that. And here you are bravely doing it through singing and songwriting. What's that experience been like for you?
Well, before I talk about that, I just want to mention something that you said, that you have your therapist voice quote and this unscripted voice, and I'm realizing too that we have multiple personas all in one, beautiful, complicated human being. And sometimes we think that we have to cram it all in to one thing and be the same everywhere. Yeah, maybe some people are like that, but I think that there's like the essence of you, Anna, that shows up in the therapy in a slightly different way versus here on your podcast in a slightly different way. And that's okay. And it's beautiful and it happens. I think that's important to mention that people might have multiple personas, especially if they have multiple passions and fields that they're in.
I love that. And I think that being able to see that, like you said, as a wonderful thing versus start feeling like you're living your life in compartments. Like there is a natural hierarchy, I guess. I don't know how you describe it. I think of it like circles of levels of intimacy of who we have in our life, and that, the wider that goes, the different are there is an essence of all of us in it, but the level of intimacy or vulnerability around those inner circle relationships versus our outer circle relationships, whether, as they kind of become more professional relationships or online relationships or whatever it is, that they do look different. And that doesn't mean that there isn't transparency or there isn't continuity.
Yeah.
It's that essence carries throughout, but it can look different, and that's an okay thing.
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing to highlight.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing it out.
Thanks for pausing.
Okay, and now you asked me a different question.
Yes. And so what, as a singer-songwriter, literally stepping into the light, right? Stepping up to the mic and sharing this other part of you, what has that been like in the vulnerability hangover factor? It's like a new term we're going to coin.
It's so, I think the best comparison is a roller coaster. Like, I'm really afraid of getting on the roller coaster because it's terrifying to go down that really steep slope. But afterwards, you kind of have a high of having survived that, connected with people through that experience. So like going out to open mic or perform every time is terrifying. And sometimes it'll be like a tiny smattering of people, just a really small, intimate crowd. And sometimes it'll be a large crowd. Regardless, it's scary. And regardless of whether people were paying attention, and regardless of whether anyone came up to me afterwards to say like thank you or to comment on a song, even if I just went up and sang and everyone was like dead faced, right. At least I did it that time, and I know, and I survived, and I can do it again. And there will be times where people will love it, but I just keep going because for some reason, even though it's terrifying and sometimes painfully not degrading, but like when you play and nobody's paying attention, it's really sad.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are those times where it really moves people. And and as a musician, I think those are that's the particular kind of torture that I enjoy and I'm living for.
Okay, so there's two huge things you said there. One was that every time it's terrifying. And I think that is an amazing, amazing just reminder for all of us that showing up and being seen doesn't become less terrifying. We just get used to the fact that it will be terrifying. So if anybody listening out there is trying something new and it's just absolutely terrifying and they keep doing it and showing up and it continues to be terrifying, it doesn't mean it's the wrong thing for them. It means that they're doing it right because it's so scary.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such an important highlight, not to doubt that fear, that fear is actually showing you that you're doing something really brave and something really big.
Something you really care about, something that if you fell flat on your face would be really devastating. Like that's a cool thing to get up for in the morning. Like if you didn't care about what you were doing, then, you wouldn't be as afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the other thing too that you said is it sounds like it's a shift from, yes, your passion, your singing and songwriting is a way to connect with others and share your voice and have it be a voice of their experience too. But it sounds like that the more that you move to a place of showing up and doing it and making it about your experience versus the success of doing it hinging on whether or not people see it as successful, that shift is also very profound, because then it's not, I don't want to say, it's distancing from the criticism as the factor of or the definition of your success, and really creating it about the fact that you showed up and did it. That's the success.
Yeah. And that can be weird to admit sometimes too, that you're just showing up to practice being seen. I think a lot of times I get the message like, you're not supposed to be seen. Like, why do you need attention? Stop taking selfies. Stop getting attention for attention's sake. Like, what's so bad about wanting attention as any human being?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you think about our very early kind of attachment needs, it is am I being seen by primary caregiver, whether that's mom or dad or grandma? Like, am I being seen? Do I matter? And we need that throughout our lives. And it isn't a self-centered, oh, look at me. It's I'm showing up to be seen. Is anybody else seeing me?
Yeah. It's like, to some people, I think it feels like narcissism to want to be seen. But one of my friends has always been talking about writing a book called Narcissism for Women. Like, we should all be
like a how-to guide.
Yeah, a how-to guide. Like, we should probably be a little more narcissistic because a lot of women are so not. But
oh my gosh, I love it.
Don't anyone take that. Or, I mean, I guess you could.
Yeah, but it is true that if we were allowed ourselves to be seen a little bit more and found joy from that, or those sorts of things, that actually would be kind of okay, versus the world coming to an end if we all said, hey, here I am, see me, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, see me. I feel pretty today. Like, that deserves acknowledgement as much as any other thing. Like, feeling beautiful, feeling brave, feeling proud, or even when you're feeling sad. Like, I have another friend who spends who's conscious about what she's putting out on social media as not the perfect thing all the time, not the most beautiful spread of her computer, not the most like perfectly posed shot, but just life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I had an experience probably last month. I got interviewed and actually was on the set to do a live interview for the news.
Oh,
and I know. And actually, I've got one coming up next week too, which is so interesting to be on the set, because I've done, where they've come to my office and interviewed, or I've gone to the studio and they've done, an interview there, but never live on set. So it's like a different level of terrifying. But anyways, I did that last month, and I'm talking to one of the news anchors afterwards, and she's sharing a story about her daughter who wanted a cell phone, and her daughter's, tween, 12, 13 or so. And so she asked her daughter, why do you want this phone? And she said, well, I just want it to, share pictures with my friends and, Instagram or something like that. And the mom, and I guess the daughter's very, very active, involved in a lot of sports. And the mom said, well, do you think you have time for a phone? And she goes, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, you know how long it takes us to get the perfect picture to post online. Do you have that kind of time to be able to take the perfect picture before you put it online and share it with your friends? And apparently the daughter thought about it and said, no, I actually don't have that time. I guess I don't want a phone.
What?
And yeah. And this part of my heart broke, thinking like that it was that the daughter had an awareness of how many pictures have to be taken before the perfect one is selected and put online for everybody to see a version of what's been edited to share. And that was a deterrent for her, going, yeah, no, I don't have that much time actually. And it was so interesting, and I was kind of, I didn't know what to say, because there was the mom was sharing it as a good thing. And I'm sure there was, good aspects of it. But to me, the part I heard was, wow, that the daughter knows that he's, even at the age of 12 or whatever it was, that there needs to be a version that is just shown publicly and the rest isn't good enough. Like, that's what my heart heard when I heard the story. And it was like a little piece of me broke, like, oh, baby girl, like every part is used good,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if it was you. Oh, I think it was Kelly Higdon who shared something recently online about what are we teaching our daughters with the way that we show up or don't show up or present, how we present ourselves to the world.
Oh, that quote card she put up about like showing up even if you put on your bathing suit even if your thighs are jiggly or whatever that was. I totally I read that on a podcast that probably is coming up in a couple weeks. I read it with one of the guests because we were talking about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, my friend just posted this on social media. And so I scrolled through and actually read the quote on the episode because it was so well said of just show up. And I even said to my girlfriend the other day, we went down to Pismo Beach for a week with the kids. And and I told her, I said, and we're both, there just rocking our bathing suits and playing in the sand and having fun. And I said, and we both have daughters. And I said, I hope that if my daughter gets nothing else from me, that she sees me showing up in a bathing suit, living life exactly the size that I am. And just being seen that way. And I exercise regularly for more of my mental health than my physical physique. And that she sees me doing exercise as something that is part of what feeds me versus, complaining about it as, oh, mom's going to go lose weight or whatever, but really is just kind of showing up. And it was, my girlfriend said, I feel the same way. I hope that they see us kind of just showing up in our bathing suits and not tugging or pulling or covering up just because we want that message to be in this moment being enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Not being afraid of being imperfect or thinking that means you're less lovable or less good. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. Cause there's so much that gets placed on that perfect picture or that enoughness.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's so powerful, and it's like we can have the awareness of it, but man, does it sneak up on us when it's like it could sneak up on us without even realizing. Just like, oh man, I'm doing it again, or that talk is back, where it's making me quiet my voice or get small again, or be fearful of being seen. Yeah, absolutely. So as we're kind of, having this conversation that I feel like could go on and on because it's just such a big topic, but such a powerful one. What are, thinking about the audience and kind of just embracing unscriptedness, right? The power in that. What are words of wisdom or words of encouragement that you would love to offer the audience about finding your voice and sharing your voice? Anything that you'd like to offer?
I think just from my own experience of working with folks is that you already have it inside you, and it can help to talk to a friend or a coach or a therapist or like some other professional or person in your life to get it out, a supportive person. First and have them reflect it back to you, because sometimes you're so close to it that you can't see it, and that if you haven't found it yet, or you don't feel confident yet, that's okay, because a lot of us, it's just a continual journey, and not to get hard on yourself about it.
Oh, I love that. I love that it's already in you, and that also you are very, mindful of who you share it with. Like, be super selective with your audience so that you can get that really supportive feedback when you are first getting your legs around it. Don't go right to the critics and say, "What do you think?" Like, go to the people that you know are gonna love on you.
Yeah. And then open it up a little wider.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So neat. So, Nicole, tell me what's the latest project you're working on right now?
Ooh. Well, on the music side, I am writing a bunch of songs for my album. And then on the design side, I am What am I working with right now? Oh, I'm working with a Chinese medicine and psychotherapy family practice in LA.
How beautiful.
They're called the Elemental Family. And I'm working on their website. It's awesome. I love the people that I work with because they're so passionate about what they do. And everyone offers their work in a slightly different way with their own message. Yeah.
Oh, that's so powerful. So tell folks how they can find you, because I mean, there's just so much amazingness that you have to offer. And so how can folks get in touch with you?
So my favorite social media platform is Instagram, and I'm on there as at Nikki Bonsol, NIKKIBONSOL. And then for my voice finding, writing, and graphic design stuff, I'm at NicoleBonsol.com. And as a musician, I'm currently at NickyBonsol.com.
Oh, I love it. That's like the perfect example of the different voices, right? Yeah. And the essence of ourselves in all of them. I love that. Oh, well, thank you so much for taking the time. This is just such a joy to be able to sit down with you. And I told Nicole before we started recording that I had nerves about it because I just admire so much of the work that you do. And whenever somebody starts talking to me about, imagery or voice or copy, you're like the first person I think of because you just are so gifted at it. So thank you just from the bottom of my heart taking the time to do this today.
Of course. I was a little nervous too because your first few podcasts were really good.
Oh, you're so sweet. It's so fun to hear. My husband the other day, my husband, he listened the other day and he goes, "Oh, I really enjoyed your podcast." He goes, "But I didn't get to listen to all of it because I fell asleep." And I was like, well, honey, I don't think that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, and he was so embarrassed. He's like, no, I just meant I was listening like late at night after you had fallen asleep. And I was like, okay, well, good reframe, darling. But yeah, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So, well, thank you so much for your time. And I can't thank you enough for sharing with me today.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
So that was quite the amazing interview with Nicole. I was not lying when I told you guys that she just has an amazing way with words, and talking about finding our voice and just the wisdom in our voices is such a powerful takeaway I had from this interview. And another thing that I really, really liked about what Nicole dove into was recognizing that sometimes change doesn't happen because we're not uncomfortable enough in the present state. And I think that we can all really relate to that piece, that sometimes we get stuck in that rut or we get stuck in that place because the pain isn't uncomfortable enough that will prompt us to change. And so really being able to kind of explore that piece and see if there's goals that we have there that are lurking around but not giving attention to because we haven't reached a high enough level of discomfort. Another thing that I took away from the interview was really Nicole talking about that you keep going even when it's scary. I think oftentimes we're taught that when scary things happen, you use that as a reason to just stop. And really her highlighting that that's actually when you kind of lean into it and really embrace the current of it and how intensely satisfying it is to push through what's scary and keep going regardless. So that's really what I took away from the interview, and I can't wait to hear what your guys' feedback is. Nicole is just an amazing human being, and I'm so grateful that she took the time to do this interview with me. I will include her contact information in the show notes so that you're able to get that, so feel free to pop over there. And as always, do head over to the website, herlifeunscripted.com, and click on the retreats tab so that you guys can sign up on the email list so that you'll be sure and get all the great information that is going to be rolling out in 2017 when we move into our live events. So thank you all so much for just taking the time to let me into your world, into your hearts. I'm so grateful to have all this connection with you guys, and I can't wait to get to know you guys more as we move through this process. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna at herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.